Tell us, where are you joining us from?
From the UK.
That's awesome. Welcome to our show. The show has been running for 1 week now, where we're talking about the power of education, especially with child marriages, a culture that is not only rampant in Zimbabwe, but in a number of countries globally, where underage girls are being married off to older men. And we are so glad to have you today, Mr. Madzivire, because we've been seeking for a lean in and a waiting in of men, where we are saying to the men folk, we are partners in raising these children, we are partners in parenting. What have you to say, and what are your thoughts and your opinion over this issue? So thank you for joining us. And I'm sure you are aware of the issue of Memory Machaya, the 14-year-old girl who died at the shrine whilst giving birth in Zimbabwe.
Yes, I'm very much aware of her.
All right. So, what are your thoughts, and what is it that men, as fathers, as husbands, can do to change this trait, this cultural trait?
Child marriages has been a problem in our society, not only in the church, but in our African culture. We had child marriages when one little girl will be given over when the sister dies or Tete dies. Then they say, oh, one girl has got to go and replace her. And usually nobody wanted an old lady. They wanted a young child who would go and cover up that. So now we have this problem in the church. I listened to one conversation, I don't know when it was done, when people were talking about the Marange Church. I've got a slightly different understanding of the whole situation as such. I grew up in that church. I know it in and out. Almost, I was in there for almost 20 or so years. So I know quite a lot of it. Then later on, I left to other things. What the main problems of the Marange Church is how to approach them, how to engage them, because one, they believe in the supremacy of men. The women in that church have no part to play, be it in the presenting of sermons, is the men who do it. When they are on big gatherings, even those people who lead in singing, is the men who are chosen. I've never seen when a woman was chosen to lead in singing. So unlike other churches, like the church where we go, we've got this women fellowship, Ruwadzano, for women. In that church, they don't have that. The women cannot be able to meet on their own and come with decisions or suggestions. Everything has got to be done by men. So if we are to encounter that, the best opportunity or the best way of approaching that problem would be not from the bottom to top, but it would be from the top coming to the bottom. So
this is exactly what we were kind of information we're looking for. So thank you for this. Yes, please continue.
So what is required is engaging the leaders of that particular church. Then it comes down to the people in the various areas, and what they will be saying, we got this message from Ocha. So they are coming and saying, we got this message. This has got to be taken in this particular way. I'm very. I usually like to refer to in the Bible. We've got that case in the Acts of the Apostles when there was a problem of these Gentiles who had just given their lives to Christ. But the Jews were saying anybody to be accepted, they needed to be circumcised. So those people out there, they were suffering this problem that they've got to be circumcised because they've come back to the church. But the apostles, it was Paul and whoever, they had to take that message to the headquarters to Jerusalem. And the people at Jerusalem had to deliberate on this. After deliberating, now they come with a solution. Go and tell them this and this and this and this and this. So that is how we can solve, that is how that problem can be solved. I've got one or two methods I think we can use. In 2008, we had come up with an organization which was like an umbrella body for apostolic churches. You know, when we're talking of churches in Zimbabwe, there is a lot of division. We separate ourselves. We have the Catholics, they've got their Catholics Bishops Conference. Then the mainline churches, they've got the Zimbabwe Council of Churches. The Pentecostal, they've got the Evangelical Fellowship. Then the Apostles, which form quite I think we are the biggest percentage of the churches in Zimbabwe. Unfortunately, they were being left out. Why? They are not educated. They are not trained. So we sort of come to a situation where we are struggling among ourselves. So we say, who said that? We say it was the Evangelical Fellowship. We said, no, we don't care about them. Who was it? It was the mainline churches. We don't follow about mainline churches. They came from the colonial powers. We can't follow what they are saying. What I would recommend is, unfortunately, that organization we had formed, the Apostolic Christian Council of Zimbabwe, bad enough, like in any organization, politics came into it and it split. I understand now they've split into about 5 groups. We've got a group led by Ndanga. I know Ndanga, you should know him. He's very talkative. It's always on the press and so forth. There's another one. It's like Ndanga is on Apostolic Christian Council of Zimbabwe. There's another one called Apostolic Christian Council of Zimbabwe Original. There is another one which is led by Sine and Mutuuri, who is one of the prominent ZANU-PF person. Then we've got another one which is led by Nehemiah Mtendi, the ZCC man, and he is all together with this former ambassador from Family of God. But the best person I think could be able to help through would be if we could contact Ndanga, because initially he had brought together the Marange people with the other churches. So most of these people, I can be able to give you their details and you talk to them. You can come up with something.
All right.
But, you know, with the Marange churches, I said, they are very difficult to penetrate into them. I was arguing the other day saying, it's not dreaming about marrying small girls and so forth. Part of it has got to do with their church doctrine. With the Marange church doctrine, they don't believe in any other church except their church. So if they're coming from another church, they will not take you as a brother in Christ, but they take you as somebody who has not yet known God. So to come on the same table with them and discuss the word of God, they won't accept you because they say you don't know anything. It is only us who know. So it becomes a bit of a problem how to properly engage them. How can we work with them, because they won't accept working with you. The system of girl-child marriages has been going on since I can't remember. Our family started going to that church around 1968, and ever since that time, small girls were married. By the age of 14, she already she might be having 1 or 2 children who has passed away at that small age, and most of their things they are done secretly. You will just hear, oh, he lost a child and the child was buried. I don't know if you know it very well. They used to hold their meetings at Skyline in Harare. You know, just before we cross over Unyani. I can't remember what the area now.
Beatrice. I think that's Beatrice, eh?
Yeah, Beatrice. You know, Beatrice, just after Mbuzi, before where there is the Skyline Hotel, just by Unyani River. They used to hold their meetings there. But what they do is, if anybody passes away when they are at their meetings, they just bury them there.
Secretly.
They don't care about carrying them home or whatever. If somebody passes away in their shelters, they just go and bury. They carry on with what they are going on with. So the people who were responsible with that place, they had to chase them away when they discovered after they had left. There were so many graves. And nobody was able to tell what happened. So that's why they moved back from there. I think they'd gone to Macheke. There's a farm which they were using in Macheke. Later on, they went back to their place to
Okay, that's very interesting.
Yes, that
and sorry, go ahead.
The problem is all these things have been going on. The government is there. The police are there. What is done about it? Nothing. Girls are married at 11, 12. They leave school. What is done about it? Nothing. That's the problem.
Okay. So when you formed this association for the apostolic sect, what was the idea? What was the goal? Was child marriage is one of the issues that you were going to be confronting and handling?
It was like a gentlemanly understanding, because we were being left out in a lot of things concerning religion. And it had been said the Evangelical Fellowship will stand for us. But the Evangelical Fellowship does not know what happens in our churches. They know what's happening at Assemblies of God, at Apostolic Faith Mission, but they don't know what is happening to the church, which is down there in a river valley, or which is under a tree. So when we formed this association, basically it was trying to bring people together so that when there is a problem, we can be able to have a common front and try and solve that particular problem. But as we went on, such things like girl-child marriages were part of our topics. At times when we would meet as heads of churches, such things were discussed, and we had some people who would come and talk to us about it. But you know, these associations, it's not compulsory to come. Though that church is a member of the group, it's up to them. They'll just say, oh, we don't care about that, because one thing which they look at is usually their membership. What can I go? If you are looking at a church like Marange, it's a very big church. Maybe it's the biggest. I think it's the biggest church in the country. When they hold a meeting, like when the meeting which they have in June, you are talking maybe about 2-3 million people will be there.
Wow.
It's quite a very
Okay,
big
that-
congregation. And you won't deny it because around 2008, the leader of that church, Taguta, he was said to be having about 76 wives,
Wow. Of different ages.
different ages. And
Right.
one
So I
thing which
want,
they do is the leaders of various branches of the church, when the head of the church visits there, when he gets there, he's told, okay, if you want a wife, here are 2 girls, you can take them with you, something like that. And nobody will take an old lady, it's the young girls which they take.
sadly. Thank you, Mr. Madzivire. Welcome, Gertrude, all the way from Melbourne.
Good to be here, Ruth. How's everybody tonight?
We are joined by Mr. Madzivire, Javis Madzivire. He is in the UK. He says he was in the church the Marange Apostolic sect that we were talking about, and he was just giving us the information, the gap. He's closing the gap that we had on how do we approach these people. And I think this is actually more than coincidence that he's on the show. So he's advising us, and he will help us facilitate the meetings with the different leaders. So, Mr. Madzivire, I would like to introduce you to Gertrude Mache, who is the curator of her story, and she's at the moment in Melbourne, Australia, but based in New Zealand.
Okay, how are you? It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, and thank you so much for your input and bridging this gap that we have.
You are welcome.
Thank you so much. Ruth, I've noticed we've got some people in the waiting room. We've got Liz. Are they wanting to participate, or?
I think Liz wants to participate, and I see Ambiavashi's devices are not connected.
Yeah,
so
I think
she
she's
may need
having
to connect.
issues connecting.
Yes. Welcome, Liz. Good morning.
Good evening. Hi, thank you. How is everyone?
We are well.
Good.
Okay. Is there anyone else who is in the back room that I haven't?
I have Zoom on. I don't have anyone yet.
Okay.
But that's all.
Fine.
That was all I could see. Yeah.
All right. My power is gone off like a clockwork. It is in Zimbabwe. So I may have to rejoin with another device. If I fall off, please just take over. So Mr. Madzivire's suggestion is there are leaders that we could approach from the ground here. He will obviously give us more details on how we should approach them in terms of conduct and the tone that we should take, because he talks about male supremacy, that women are not considered as anything other than children in those churches. But you had said you had 2 suggestions, Mr. Madzivire, and you had just finished explaining to us the first one.
The second one is just, it requires the government, because our problem is these people, it's like they brag about being connected to the government. So whatever they are doing, they know they've got the support from there on top. So I don't know how best we can be able to solve a situation when there is a much higher power above us.
Okay.
It's like in June, everything was closed for meetings, but they had their meeting. And when the police went there, they said it was local people and they dispersed on whatever. Why? Because there is a high connection there. So that now becomes a second challenge, which I don't know how we can be able to tame the dog there.
So do we have some of the government officials and ministers being part of this sect?
Yeah, Yeah, they are. They used to be. I don't know if he's still there. What do they call him? Mushove.
Okay, Minister, I'm sure. Yes.
Yeah, I think he was very much part of them.
Okay. Because maybe that will be our entry point then, if we coming from the top down and getting access to have an audience with him and just having a discussion with him on what we are about and how we would want to understand and obviously facilitate a change in this in this trait of child marriages. But thank you so much for that information, and thank you for coming onto the show, because this has really been helpful. We will definitely keep in touch and asking for direction and as well as advice on how it's going and how it can be done successfully.
Okay, maybe I've got one small word. Personally, what I've been doing, I've been in the apostolic churches for more than 30 years. Not talking of when we were at Marangi, when I gave my life to Christ and I was in the church. It's not only the girl child, but this case of abuse of women in churches. It's going on and nobody seems to care about it. Like a lot of us believe in faith healing. You will go to have your prayers, especially in Zimbabwe. I don't know if you've heard of them. There are these young boys, they are called the Mashura. They perform miracles and wonders. They can perform a miracle on you and you don't know what they'll be doing. You just find his hand is in your skirt and they just get away with it. That has been a common practice. And it is through that a lot of women have been abused. Bad enough, many people do not report. These things just go on and die on like that. Personally, what I had to do, we registered a small trust in Zimbabwe, looking forward to having to expand, which we call the Second Home Trust. What we are looking at is how can we prevent rape, sexual abuse, and manipulation of women in churches, and at the same time look at the victims. How can we help them to heal? Because the main problem is with a lot of these people, they will stay for years with that mind that they were abused. Where were they abused? At the church. So it's unfortunate with this COVID thing, it disturbed our plans. We started in 2019. How we are doing it is we choose an area. In that area, we have family fun day. We are doing soccer, netball, and we invite some guests. Can invite you. Can you go with us to that particular area? So that's when we talk about girl-child marriages, sexual abuse. Our main target or our main theme is the prevention of abuse, manipulation of women in churches. So at our 2019 meeting, after everything had been done, one girl from Masasa High School writes a letter to the headmaster. She says, I've got a problem. My father is abusing me almost on a daily basis. He's having me in bed and I don't know what to do. They tried what they could think of doing. Unfortunately, they could not come up with anything until one of the teachers whom we work with contacted me here, and I contacted police in Marondera. Marondera police referred me to Mausekwa police. Mausekwa police referred me to a base camp in Muda Farms. You know, that process, it took almost 2 months for the police to get to that girl. And when they got to that girl, unfortunately, people in the community had said to the girl, "Are you really sure that you want your father to be arrested?" So when the police got there, he said, "Unfortunately, I don't know what had happened. I don't know." Last year, I went there to look for the girl and have a one-on-one discussion with her. I found she's married to somebody else as a second wife. So she said the best would be being married as a second wife than living with a father who abuses me. Those are the unfortunate cases that we meet as we are going around. We are not very much concerned about issues of people in the families. We are looking at cases in the church, but at times we find ourselves now confronted with such situations, and we were very much let down by the police. If it takes 2 months for police to go and approach somebody, I think that's not very good. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madzire. Yes, we seem to have guests on Zoom. Gertrude, please introduce our Zoom guests.
I would like my guests on Zoom to introduce themselves. One of them is a very, very good friend of mine, Talk More. We went to high school together. Last saw you when I was 16 years old. Welcome to the show. Talk More, please introduce yourself. Weigh in on this topic. What are your thoughts? What are your ideas around the movement we are trying to create to stop the sexual abuse of children, child marriage in Zimbabwe? Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know we can't see you on video, but we can hear you on voice. Just unmute yourself, Talk More. Then after you, we'll go to you, Virginia.
Thank you, Gertrude. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Talk More Mangunda. I'm a forester profession. I've been in forestry since 1991. Yeah, well, last saw you 16 years when you were 16. That was at high school, long time ago.
It was.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Well, yeah, my take on this issue is that it's really a horrifying issue in Zimbabwe. Some churches, this practice is so rooted that it should be very difficult to root out. You know what I mean? Because it is probably almost heartening to see carrying on, because there's so much many powerful people within the sects who benefit on this, and then I think that's where it's rooted in. So to extract this problem, it will have to be from the roots, and that is the hardest. When you're felling a tree, you can fell the top, but if the roots are still alive, like the gum tree, it keeps sprouting. So the main thing is to look at the roots and see how it can be disturbed. I can say, I'm just likening it to a big tree, big gum tree that I'm used to. So what it is that this is a very big problem in Zimbabwe, especially with the apostolic sects. And there are quite a number of them, and they're mushrooming, and they're replicating. And as soon as one guy
I think Talk More's connection is failing. Talk More, can you still hear us? We seem to have lost you. The other reason why I had invited Talk More to the show is that from memory, I remember Talk More.
Finds it fit to start a church and give them to the guys. It's unfortunate, but it's true. That's what's happening there. So it's a wider problem. Men are voracious. They want to appease their appetites, they appease their ego, and also when they have, especially up here in Nyanga, because some places find that a man has got 14 wives, and half of them are very young, and next time they go to a Passover meeting, he gets another 2 or 3, depending on the power that he has. So I think to really look at this issue, it's not just looking at the surface, it's looking at the roots as well. But there's going to be a lot of resistance, actually. I think that's my take on this problem. I'm just taking.
Chokmo's connection is dropping. So Chokmo, the other reason why I invited you to the show is I know that you are part of Rotary International. What other social impact organizations within Zimbabwe could...
From holistic state, all the monies, but you see it's ingrained in them, they grew up in this. So I don't know. I think it's a very, very big issue you need to look at. And,
so
the extraction of those roots is going to be very, very difficult.
So as a Rotarian, Chokmo, is there anything that can be done through Rotary International or other organizations of that sort, social impact organizations within Zimbabwe who could also lend support? You know, we're trying to connect with as many organizations on the ground as possible to create a committee that could go into these communities and start having these conversations. Are you still a Rotarian? I know you were part of Rotary at some point.
Yeah, I am a Rotarian.
Chokmo's connection is not very good. He keeps dropping in and out. All right, let me ask Virginia. Virginia, you are on the call. And Penyo, you're also on the call. If you unmute, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Rotarian, you never get out. But when I look at this issue, in the 1984, No Child Survival, and all these other organizations, I think there's been a lot of effort, but I don't know if they've been able to address the core of this issue, because it's more spiritual, it's more. But when you talk about organizations like Rotary, it's more awareness, getting in there. The awareness that we have, that service above self, it's a service that you be rendering, getting in there, placards, magazines.
There's a lot of conscientization and education required. Thank you, Chokmo. Thank you so much for your contribution. If you could give us your WhatsApp number, Chokmo, in the chat. And Virginia, can you introduce yourself? Or Virginia is still here.
Literacy a lot of communication that is needed. A lot of.
Yeah, Chokmo, your connection is not good. Give me your WhatsApp number in the chat so we can add you to the group. Virginia, would you like to unmute and introduce yourself? And Penyo, please, can you do the same? Unmute, introduce yourself, and just let us know what your thoughts are. Where are you based around this issue?
I'm losing connection now. Sorry, my connection is bad.
Give us your WhatsApp number, Chokmo. Please give us your WhatsApp number in the chat so we can add you to the group.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for being here.
All right, thank you.
Virginia, if you are there, either type something in the chat, contribute to the conversation, and Penyo, same thing with you. If not, we will go back to the connection with Ruth. It seems like my guests are struggling with connection, Ruth.
Yeah, it sounds like so. But I think as and when they come in, we'll just accommodate them. so that we also have their opinions and suggestions.
Yeah.
So, ladies, let's weigh in to the suggestions that we've had from the two gentlemen, from Mr. Madzivire and from Tokmo. Yes, Sis Kath. Unmute yourself, Kathleen.
Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone all over the world, and thank you, Bishop Madzivire, for weighing in this morning. We thank you. Yes, I did understand what Mr. Madzivire said about the church, like the Apostolic Faith Church, the Marange one. But as we all understand, it's not only in the apostolic sect. This has been a culture from way before we were born. Just like what he said, that if I die, I'm married, my children, my sister, the young sister will be given to my husband. Even if there's a sister who has been divorced, who is there at home, the husband will not accept that. He wants a small one, the young one. So it's a culture which has been left to sort of go viral, to become a pandemic as we see it now. This is the 21st century where our children are being abused at that age with an old man. So as I said the other day, the only way forward for us will be there has to be a law that stipulates that if you marry a minor, you have broken the law. If you rape a minor, you have broken the law. Because all the cultural things or beliefs, or the church's belief, the spiritual belief, it will come to a point where it cannot overrule the law. Hence, we are asking that the powers that be, just like in the Western world, we are different, of course, but when we look at the world that we are living in, there's nothing like someone is living in a cocoon somewhere. We all the same. There should be something that actually we have to endeavor to achieve, especially when it comes to children. How we parent them, how we raise our children should be a moral duty for each parent. So for that reason, we still looking towards the powers that be, that there is a law enacted for the purpose of the girl child. It might not be a girl child only, even the boys, they are also abused. Sometimes we've heard of some incidents. So if it is rape, it's rape, and it should be judged accordingly. Because if we look at the spiritual side of it, we will not win. If we look at the cultural side of it, we will not win. But we have to look at where we are going and what we are living for our children right now in the 21st century. That's my take. Thank you, Bishop Madzivire.
Thank you.
And Tokmo.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. So again, we look to the policymakers and the legislation. Liz, your thoughts this evening to you and this morning to us.
Thank you, Bishop Madzivire and the other guys from Zim who gave us, the take from on the ground. As I listen to this, I tend to agree with Sis Kathy that we might probably need to push more on the legislative part. But I also think that we can still push on social side, raise the education, raise awareness. I almost thought of the Catholic Church in the West, how it had been going for years and years, and how it was really more the legislation that changed things. So for us, but the awareness had to happen first so that people could realize that a law was being broken. So if we don't educate them, they might not know that a law is being broken. As we educate them and the law hopefully is being worked upon, then people will be like, okay, this shouldn't be happening, then at least that way. So I suppose what we are planning to do, raise awareness, educating people, I still think that it's a good starting step, because we have to start from somewhere. And while in the meantime, we're waiting for the policy developers to come up with legislation that is appropriate. That's my take
Thank
on it.
you. Thank you so much. Deborah, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Bishop, and the other guy on Zoom. It's good to hear from Guy's point of view, and I like that the fact that you've been in these churches and you know the mentality of these guys, how they think and how they operate, because you can direct us on how to move. And I like the point that you raised, that the guys at the top are supporting these churches. It's not because they want the churches, it's because they've got votes from these churches. Because these churches have got people, it's numbers that they are looking at. So these guys, even in lockdown, you said they were allowed to congregate during lockdown. Everyone was getting arrested, but they were allowed to congregate. Also, the other thing you raised is how, as families, we shut children up when they've been abused. Like the example of the girl you gave that was being abused by a father, and then when adults say, "Are you sure? Maybe you are wrong," they are saying, "Don't talk about it." It's supposed to be you. They are already doubting you, so you start asking yourself, "Okay, who is going to believe a child, me as a child, against the father?" I remember when I was growing up, I grew up in Salvation Army Church, and one time the captain. They're called captain in Salvation Army Church, the leaders. They used to change, rotate. There came a new captain who used to greet. When the church finishes, you stand outside in a circle and the people singing, and he's greeting everyone, like blessing everyone. This guy would greet us and scratch inside our palm. And I remember I was 9 years old, and he used to greet you and scratch you inside your palm. And we're walking home. I said, "Is it just me, or does that new captain scratch inside your palm when he greets you?" And I remember everyone said, "Don't talk about it. Don't you ever say anything about it." And I thought, so they know this is wrong. So every time we would go to stand outside, us kids would dodge his greeting. We'll stand where he's already greeted people and run where he's already done it, so he won't greet us, because we didn't like that he used to greet us and do this inside our palm, and we're not supposed to say anything. And this is how abusers go on, because they are protected by us as families, and they are protected by the church, and now the government is also protecting these rulings. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I like that the gentlemen have joined us and they will give us direction, and I love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. Gertrude.
It's been an interesting discussion tonight. I kind of feel like we're getting closer and closer to a tangible next step. What's been frustrating, of course, now, Ruth, is you getting support on the ground in Zim. The people who were on the call yesterday, I think, could be a part of it. I know that my ex-schoolmate, Chokmo, is very keen to get involved in some way. We need to really create a larger committee on the ground in Zimbabwe to facilitate starting to broach into these communities and starting to have these conversations and using the right steps and the right protocols that have been suggested in how we go about that. But I kind of feel like we are much further than we were a week ago when we started this conversation and this discussion. So this is really fantastic to see so many people responding and coming on the show every day. So what do you need, Ruth? You are there. We are at a distance. What do you think are practical, tangible next steps?
I think we have the two gentlemen, or the three gentlemen now with Tokmo on the ground with me here in Harare. So they could form part of the delegation that we need to approach the different leaders and elders. Obviously, the Minister of Education has accepted our invitation to be a guest on our show. He says he will advise me on which day he will join us. So again, we've got that access and that audience. So in terms of moving forward, I think what I need now, those letters, remember we're going to write open letters. So we
Yes.
now need to mobilize the mothers, even the fathers that are not in Zim or even in Zim in different parts of the country to send in their letters, the open letter that we are writing to the leaders and to the elders. So Bishop, just to fill you on, we have come up with one of the strategies that we've come up with is writing an open letter to our leaders in the different sectors, religion, political, the government itself, and even the communities, where we are saying as mothers, as sisters, as aunts, as the girls that are being abused, we need your help. Help us with this evil animal that is attacking us. Protect us. So we're going to be asking the women from different parts of the world to send us their letters, which we are going to print and present to the leaders. So in terms of that delegation, just having the right people, the right influential people, especially the male influential people. Like so, yesterday we had a reverend from Anglican, and we had the executive director from the NANGO, NGOs Association of Zimbabwe, that have joined us on this movement. And now we have Tokmo. And so we will be able to. So I think, Gertrude, just building that delegation and making sure that we have a number of influential people that these different leaders will listen to and accept our meetings with them. So if you...
The logistics of getting the letters to you, may I make a suggestion that we use the Facebook group that you created?
Yes.
People can post their letters there.
Definitely. So
because what I would like to see, Ruth, the power of the internet right now means that we now have well over 20 to 30 people who have been involved in this dialogue so far. If each and every one of us reaches out to 10 people, adds 10 people to the group, we're already at 300. So let's do it on a 10 by 10 approach. At a minimum, each of us need to add 10 other people who are from Zimbabwe, who are in the diaspora, who are in the country, and add them to the group so they start getting this information and they become part of the delegation. And it'll give you more hands on the ground as well, people to support you in everything that we're trying to do. So if you can share the group link on my Facebook wall, Ruth, put it in the chat here in the comments, so that if there's anyone out there who would like to join the group, please write a letter of appeal. And the letter is going to the Zimbabwean government. And what we are asking for is to stop child abuse in Zimbabwe at all levels. Anyone who marries a minor, this terminology, child marriage, should actually be scrapped, because any child who is below 18 is untouchable. And that should be the bill that we are trying to get passed. Now, we also need to see if you can connect with any of the United Nations representatives in Zim, Ruth, because the United Nations are also advocating for this bill to be passed. If we can make them aware that we are behind this, again, there might be some guidelines we get from the UN to help us move this forward. We need to bring on board as many resources as possible.
Thank you, Gertrude. I think we can do that. So the Facebook group that we formed is called the Power of Education, but I'll share the links and I will do a request on this page and many other pages where we are requesting for the open letters to deal with this. I know Deborah was going to help us with the outline or the things that we would like covered in that letter. So I'll have to catch up with you later, Deborah, after this broadcast to talk about that, so that I put it also in that notice.
That's excellent. What else do we want to cover tonight? Any closing thoughts?
Yes, I like what Bishop Madzivire is already doing. His initiative into the communities, right to the grassroots, where they are handling or trying to handle abuse amongst women in the churches. Because a lot of times, really, when it comes to faith healing, there is manipulation. And we've seen it not only in the African setup, we even in the Pentecostal churches, there is manipulation where the faith leader is acting like God, or now using his influence to oppress and make the women feel like he is representing God, even if it's abuse that's happening in that situation. So we would also maybe, as her story, want to join our efforts to that as well, especially as he is already in these areas. So when they have their fun days, we can also come in and then talk about the cause of child marriages. So collaboration again at that level.
Because women, these people are so desperate to get healed. So when you go to these spiritual pastors, churches, whatever, and you're told what to do, you are listening because you want to be healed, and you are being abused. Like he said, you turn up and his hand is in your skirt, and he's saying, well, I'm healing you. Don't you want to be healed? And people listen, but he's actually abusing you. And he's using the word of God, like, I'm the man of God, you have to listen to me. And that's a very good point, because many people are being lost and being abused in the name of healing, in the name of anointing, in the name of these spiritual miracles and stuff. So we need to really educate people in understanding the Bible and understanding that even the man of God can be used to abuse. He's also a man, he can abuse you. You need to look at him not as a God, but as a man. If he's doing something wrong, you need to run with your life. So that's a very good organization you've created, Bishop, and it will help a lot more women. Especially, I've seen women who want to have babies, who are desperate to have a baby.
Yeah.
They'll go to any length to have a baby, and they will be abused just so they can have a baby, because of the stigma as well in our culture that if a woman can't have a baby, she's cursed. It's the woman asingazvari. It's never murume.
It's funny, Deborah, you're talking about my story. I was married for 16 years and I didn't have a child. So you can imagine, that's a journey that I lived and walked, and know exactly what it means. I almost went Kwamponda when I was still in Zimbabwe. I had to disappear because my mother-in-law and her sister did come to Kwamponda, and I disappeared. If I hadn't disappeared that day, I don't know what would have happened. And it is real.
Wow.
You will be having a child from Ponda.
Yes, because then Mponda was
that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. It's just, it's just what it is. It is. I know exactly the desperation. I can't put it into words. I can't put it into words, but it is real, very, very real. And you just want to belong. You want to fit in, because everybody is looking at you like you're not human. You're not a woman, right? And you do anything just to be accepted. And it takes a strong person to walk away from that and say, it doesn't matter, I'm alive.
Wow.
So
That's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, but that's where, a lot of it comes from.
Yeah. And a very necessary discussion too.
Mm.
A lot of women just suffer in silence, ashamed, the shame that goes with it. And yet it's just a God-given gift to have the ability to have children or not. Definitely a discussion that we need to go into at some point. So, Ruth, where are we at? We have 5 minutes. Any parting thoughts?
Hello, Gertrude.
Hello.
Can you please unmute Mrs. Mekwe?
Okay, hold on. Are you on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, we can hear you. Go ahead. Please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're calling from. You are
No, I'm Virginia Botswana, calling from Botswana. I was just saying, Mrs. Mekwe says, can you please unmute her?
I can't see her on the call. She dropped off the call. Right now on Zoom, it's just yourself and Talk More. So she dropped out of this call unless she is on, I don't see her on the other connection.
Thank you.
Would you like to weigh in on the conversation in any way?
Okay, well.
Thank you for being here from Botswana.
Child abuse of early marriage sex really takes away the rights of the child to grow and blossom into the person she wants. It also becomes very traumatic because even if she doesn't marry you or she marries you, sex is not meant to be traumatic. So to these girls, it's a point of so much trauma. So for the rest of their lives, they will never enjoy sex. And the sex has to be given to you because you are consenting. You want it, you are of age. You want to enjoy it, you want to have children. So when it's forced like that, it's very unfair. And coming from the spiritual leaders, that is the worst thing that any spiritual leader can actually do. And they come with the idea that since they're spiritual leaders, it is acceptable spiritually. It actually is totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. And I don't think God would ever grace such a relationship. So men have a way of doing things under the pretext of the culture, under the pretext of the church. Marrying someone to my husband, my younger sister to my husband when I'm dead, is also totally wrong. She has her own life to lead. She has her choices in life to make. When you marry someone, you are not enslaving that person. That's not marriage they're talking about. It's enslaving you and the rest of your family. And it's totally unacceptable. So dealing with putting it as a law is a good idea. The problem is who will implement the law? Because there are many laws that are there that are simply not being implemented. But putting it into the law, but also us as women in the home, let's try educating our children to report whenever they are abused. Let's stop doubting our children when they come and say we have been abused. Let's stop weighing our children less compared to our brothers and husbands who may end up abusing these children. They truly have, and if we cannot protect them as mothers, where else would they go? Who else will protect them? For 9 months in the uterus, we protected them from youth. All they knew was a mother. So where do we run away from our own children and let almost vultures devour our children in our presence? So to me, mothers, let's stand up. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You're right. This is the time. For too long as mothers, we have kept quiet. We watch in silence as our children are being sexually abused, and enough is enough. And I really thank you for weighing in on this subject. I think, it will reach a point where the policing will be within the communities, amongst the women folk, if they're given the law, if they are given the power, if they are given the concept that they can bring about this change if they want to. And this is why we are trying to find ways to go into these communities and to meet people where they are. Because a lot of these women, a lot of these mothers were little girls themselves who were married off at the age of 11, 10, 9, have no idea what their rights are. So there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of education in that sphere to be imparted. But this is why we're rising as women to say enough is enough. Something needs to change. Thank you so much for being on the call. We really appreciate your input.
Thank you very much. I was invited by Mrs. Nekwe.
It's a pity that she didn't make it. If you could give me your WhatsApp number in the chat, we will add you to the WhatsApp group. And if you are on Facebook, please find me on Facebook so we can add you to the Facebook group as well.
Okay, thank you. I'll do that.
Thank you so much. Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is amazing.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. We've had Botswana represented tonight. People in Zimbabwe, in the UK, Australia. Thank you all for coming. Ruth, I'll hand over you to wind things down.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you so much for participating and weighing in into this issue. We're definitely making a lot of progress, and I am so glad that we have men as part of our team now. Thank you so much, Bishop. Thank you, Tokmo, for joining our tribe and this movement. We really need the male voices. So until tomorrow morning, same time, 10:30 a.m. Zimbabwean time, that is 9:30 UK and 6:30 p.m. Melbourne time. Goodbye for today. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.